Hello Royals, nice to see you here again. This is your regular source of royal news and analysis. But before we start, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to receive the earliest notification. A very royal welcome. South Korea's President and First Lady visit Buckingham Palace with King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William and Kate after traveling along the mall in state coach procession. The King and Queen officially welcomed South Korea's president to Britain today before they stage a glittering state banquet in his honor at Buckingham Palace. Charles and Camilla are hosting Yoon Suk Yeol and his wife Kim Kian-hee for the first incoming state visit since the King's coronation and the second of his reign. Prince William and Kate Middleton, who looked stunning in a red outfit, played a key role by greeting the president and the First Lady at their London hotel this morning. The Prince and Princess of Wales travelled with Mr. Yoon and Mrs. Kim to a Horse Guards Parade ceremonial welcome, where the King and Queen were waiting. Following the event, they travelled to Buckingham Palace to view a special exhibition of items from the royal collection relating to South Korea in the picture gallery. Charles and Camilla took their place standing on the royal pavilion around midday and briefly greeted Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Lord David Cameron, Home Secretary James Cleverly and the Defense Chiefs of Staff. Camilla wore a blue dress and coat by Anna Valentine, hat with loose feathers by Philip Tracy and a sapphire and diamond brooch which belonged to Queen Mary. Nearby was the sovereign's escort of the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment, the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals, commanded by Major Edward van der Land. Kate wore a striking 3,000-pound caped red coat by Catherine Walker and a matching hat by Jane Taylor. She also sported a pair of Princess Diana's sapphire and diamond oval drop earrings, complementing the look with a pair of John Vito Rossi red shoes. A guard of honor, formed by F Company Scots Guards, gave a royal salute amid traditional pomp and pageantry, and the King and Mr. Yoon inspected the troops. Members of the Scots Guards were recently deployed to South Korea where they were training troops. Mr. Yoon walked past the two ranks of guardsmen, casting his eye over the servicemen before returning to the royal pavilion with the King. Charles, Camilla, William and Kate and their guests then traveled in a carriage procession down the mall to Buckingham Palace. The King and Queen then arrived at the grand entrance to Buckingham Palace with President Yoon Suk Yeol and his wife Kim Kian-hee to the sound of the South Korean and British national anthems. Mr. Yoon stepped from the black and gold Irish state coach first, followed by the King. In the second carriage, the Australian state coach Camilla, in a blue dress and coat by Anna Valentine and hat with loose feathers by Philip Tracy, accompanied Mrs. Kim, a guard of honor from the 1st Battalion. Welsh Guards in their long grey coats and bearskin hats waited in the palace quadrangle. William and Kate travelled in the Scottish state coach with Chu Kyung-ho, South Korea's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance. The royal party and their guests then went inside the palace for a private lunch. Weeks of preparation had gone into the official ceremonial welcome on Horse Guards Parade with more than 1,000 soldiers and 230 horses gathered for the occasion. In all, 7 military bands and 9 military units were involved. Lines of foot guards from F Company Scots Guards and the dazzling sovereign's escort of the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment, the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals stood to attention. The King and Queen arrived to a royal salute as the national anthem was played, with the royal standard flown from the Horse Guards building. A medley of music was played by the band of the Scots Guards, smartly dressed in their at-hole grey greatcoats. As the official cars containing the President, the First Lady and the Prince and Princess of Wales pulled up outside the pavilion, the King's Life Guards gave an official salute and the flagmen raised the national flag of Korea. The VIP visitors were greeted by their majesties as the national anthem of Korea was played and a volley of ceremonial salutes could be heard ringing out across the capital. Major James Drummond Moray matched forwards and presented his guard of honor to the Korean president and invited both himself and the King to inspect it. At Buckingham Palace, a guard of honor, found by 1st Battalion Welsh Guards, with the King's colour, under the command of Major Andrew Campbell, Welsh Guards, with the band of the regiment, took position in the quadrangle to greet the carriages, as well as a dismounted detachment of Household Cavalry in the grand entrance. As the parties arrived, the Guard of Honor received their Majesties, their Excellencies, and their Royal Highnesses with a royal salute, while the band played the Korean and British national anthems. Later this afternoon, Mr. Yoon will lay a wreath at the grave of the unknown warrior in Westminster Abbey and deliver an address in the Royal Gallery at the Palace of Westminster to members of both Houses of Parliament. In the evening, 170 guests will gather for the banquet, customarily a white tie and tiara affair. In the opulent palace ballroom, the King and Queen are expected to be joined by William, Kate and other members of the royal family, while Charles and Mr. Yoon will make speeches. Foreign secretaries are also usually invited, meaning the newly appointed Lord Cameron of Chipping Norton is likely to make a return to dining at the royal residence, harking back to the days when he was Prime Minister. Mr. Yoon, 62, is a known fan of karaoke and in April belted out a verse of one of his favorite songs, American Pie, at a White House dinner at the request of President Joe Biden during a state visit to the U.S. He got a standing ovation. Critics of Mr. Yoon, a former prosecutor general, have accused him of suppressing freedom of speech during his 18-month presidency and cracking down on fault-finding news reports about him in the name of fighting fake news. Mrs. Kim, a 51-year-old former head of an art event planning company, has also attracted controversy. She made a televised public apology in 2021 after admitting exaggerating her professional credentials when applying for jobs at universities over a decade ago. Mr. Yoon and Mrs. Kim made a low-key arrival at Stansted Airport yesterday, before his trip. Mr. Yoon said the world is facing a polycrisis of multiple conflicts and threats to humanity. He told the Daily Telegraph that the wars in Ukraine and Israel, and rising tension with Russia, North Korea, and in the South China Sea, have compelled him to seek very close security cooperation with the West. He secured a landmark deal with the U.S. earlier this year to counter the North Korean nuclear threat. Mr. Yoon previously warned fellow world leaders about possible cooperation between North Korea and Russia after North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The King and the South Korean president met last year at the reception for heads of state and official overseas guests at the palace on the eve of the late Queen's funeral. Mr. Yoon's opponents accused him of being disrespectful during his trip to London after he missed the chance to view the late Queen's coffin lying in state, which he blamed on heavy traffic. He was also caught on microphone swearing after a chat with Mr. Biden at the UN General Assembly the following week, with the footage going viral in his home country. Tomorrow, Mr. Yoon will hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak at Downing Street and also meet Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer. The state visit follows the first incoming one of the King's reign by South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa last autumn. Meanwhile, as part of Mr. Yoon's visit, the UK and South Korea are to launch talks on a new trade deal and sign a diplomatic accord. Business and Trade Secretary Kemi Badenoch will begin negotiations with her Korean counterpart Bang Moon-kyu at the UK-Korea Business Forum at Mansion House tomorrow. They will also announce £21 billion of investments committed by Korean businesses in green energy and infrastructure projects across the UK. The UK secured a free trade deal with South Korea in 2019, with the agreement largely aimed at keeping trade flowing post-Brexit and removing uncertainty. The UK hopes to secure modern digital provisions in a new deal because most of its services exports to Korea are delivered digitally, Ms. Badenoch said. The government is upgrading our trade deal with South Korea to ensure that our trading relationship plays to the UK's strengths as an advanced, high-tech economy. This refreshed, modernized deal will boost our world-leading services sector while also creating new opportunities for UK exports such as in our world-leading food and luxury goods sectors. Mr. Yoon will hold a meeting with Mr. Sunak and sign the new long-term agreement covering defense and technology cooperation in Downing Street tomorrow. The Downing Street Accord follows similar agreements with Singapore and Japan, coming as the UK seeks to consolidate influence in the Indo-Pacific. It will include a defense agreement that will boost the British and Korean militaries' cooperation on countering smuggling in the East China Sea, which North Korea relies on to evade sanctions. Defense Secretary Grant Shapps said, "The UK is leading the way in supporting our Korean friends in countering North Korea's aggressive posturing and ensuring the safety and security of the Indo-Pacific." Deepening the ties between the Royal Navy and Republic of Korea Navy, our bilateral defense relationship has never been stronger, Foreign Secretary Lord David Cameron said. This agreement, signed 70 years after the Korean War armistice, is a truly unique step in the strengthening of our work to secure the security of the Korean Peninsula and the region. We are proud, as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, to be at the forefront of international sanctions enforcement activity. This includes upholding international commitments to curtail North Korea's illegal weapons programs. Downing Street said the accord will also see the countries work closer together on technology such as artificial intelligence, semiconductors and quantum. Science ministers will also sign a memorandum of understanding to boost space cooperation. South Korea will host next year's AI summit after the first UK-backed gathering in Bletchley Park earlier this month. The UK visit coincides with the 140th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the UK and Korea, as well as the 70th anniversary of the armistice of the Korean War. So what do you think about this news, guys? Thank you for tuning in to today's discussion. As always, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Stay tuned for more updates on the intriguing world of royalty. Until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you again with some more fascinating news about the royal family. Thank you.